step up.
All right, last game I'm going to ask you about the game you can listen to right here on WHB, and it's here in Kansas City at Sprint Center on ESPN2 at 7 o'clock. Kansas State will play against Florida. Kansas State, it looks like, still working through the transition to the new offense of Bruce Weber, and a very different style, very different personality from what they had with Frank Martin. And, of course, he leaves to go to South Carolina, and Bruce Weber takes over. It's a talented team that has a lot of players returning, but they're having trouble scoring the basketball. They've only lost two games, but they've been against good tems.
Stephen, I'm going to disagree with you. I don't think they're very talented. I went and watched them practice. I've seen them play in person. Everyone talked about they had a lot of talent. I disagree with you. I don't think they're a very talented team at all.
Okay.
And I think with that said, Bruce Weber's done a very good job with that group. Those starters, all those starters, would not start at Kansas. None of them. Magruder was a preseason all-league pick. I don't think he's that talented. He can't get his own shot. He doesn't have three-point range. He's an average athlete. Shannon Spradling's a nice guard. But I don't think they're that talented. Interior players aren't good scorers. So I'm not I think Bruce has done an exceptional job, and people have said he's got a lot of talent. I disagree with that, and I think it's going to be a very difficult game because Florida is that good, and right now they're mad at what they gave the game away at Arizona. And they're very good defensively, and at times Kansas State struggles to score the ball.
Yeah, and so you bring up a very interesting point because, again, most of the people around here feel like he inherited, and for lack of a better word, a talented team from Frank Martin, and they're underachieving with Bruce Weber, and you're totally on the other side of the fence there.
When I went and watched them practice, I was shocked because I thought that people were saying, "Hey, they got a lot of talent." I'm like, no, they don't. They don't. They do not have a lot of talent. Again, they're good kids. They work hard, but Magruder, he wouldn't start at Kansas. And a lot of kids wouldn't start at Kansas. But if your best player, at Kansas State, wouldn't start at Kansas, then your level is not up to par. And I think that, they have some nice pieces, but they're a bunch of, in my opinion, role players that Bruce Weber's trying to mold into a top-tier Big 12 team. And to me, Bruce is one of the best coaches around. And, I don't think they're underachieving. If anything, they might be overachieving.
What's that say then about the job that Frank Martin did with this basketball team last year?
Well, I think that they had some scores, and I forget who left the team, who graduated, who left. But, in the past, Frank's had some guys that could score the basketball and play aggressive defense. They're playing good defense. But, as some of their talented scorers have left and some of their talented players have transferred, and Frank had an opportunity to move closer to Florida in his recruiting base. So he took the South Carolina job. So, there's no one to blame. It just is what it is. I just don't think Bruce gets enough credit for coaching his team. And I think that the talent level, there's a misconception that there's a lot of talent there. There's not.
So, in retrospect, do you think that was a good hire? Do you think he's a good fit for Kansas State?
Oh, Bruce would be a great hire anywhere. One, he's a great guy. Two, he's a great coach. He's going to work hard. He cares. He's going to recruit within the rules. He's a great representative of Kansas State, and but you got to get players, and that's always been a challenge, in Manhattan. I think at times, and to Huggins' credit, he hired, a guy from D.C. who had a little, subway, Underground Railroad from D.C. to Manhattan. And that's hard to do. It's hard. When kids land in Kansas City, you got to drive by Lawrence to get to Manhattan, Kansas. That's a long trip.
We're joined by Matt Doherty. So just to wrap it up, you don't give them much of a chance to beat Florida at Sprint Center on Saturday night?
No. No, I don't.
You know what? A different perspective, because, again, I'll tell you, a lot of people have been hard on Bruce Weber, saying he's not doing enough with what he's got. And
he doesn't have much, man. He's wrenching the towel. He's squeezing out every drop of that towel. Again, who on that team would start at Kansas?
I mean, well, there's not very many players on teams in the Big 12 that started Kansas.
Okay, all right. Well, who
yeah.
you know?
Magruder's looked upon as their best player, so we'd be talking about Magruder.
Who on their team would start at Florida? Who on their team would start at the top? Let's put it this way then. Who on their team would start at a top 15 team, top 20 team?
Magruder would be the only guy that would have an argument.
Maybe.
Do you think they're a top half team in the Big 12? The Big 12's down this year.
I think if they listen to Bruce and buy in, they will. You know, I didn't like the fact that Magruder kind of questioned things early in the year, you know, about the offense, getting shots and all that. You know, the offense is geared for him to get shots. He's got to work and run off screens, and his teammates have to set screens. That's the best way for him to get shots, because he's going to struggle to get shots on his own because he's not that type of player. And so if you buy in the system and those guys set good screens and he moves without the ball, he'll get shots. And Bruce will figure out a way to maximize that talent. The Big 12 is down. Could they finish in the top half? Yeah, they could finish in the top half. You know, because I think it's Kansas, and then there's a big gap, and then there's, you know, probably Baylor.
Oklahoma State.
If they're, you know, that's right, Oklahoma State, and then Baylor. And then, you know, then who's after that? There's a gap. Iowa State maybe. You know, Oklahoma, depending on the day. They got young guards that'll play, you know, great one night and poorly the next, as you saw against Stephen F. Austin. So the league is not great, but I think Kansas State can definitely finish in the top half, if not the top third of that league.
Matt Doherty is our guest. Hey, Matt, very interesting stuff on Kansas State. We appreciate you giving us a different perspective. Thanks for the time. We'll look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Anytime. Thank you, and have a good holiday.
Hey, you do the same thing. That's very interesting, because last year when you look at the standings, Kansas State 10-8 in the conference, 22-10 overall, with a lot returning. You know, and he couldn't wait to correct me. He couldn't correct me quick enough when I said he you know, Bruce Weber inherited a talented team, not talented, and again he kept saying, and that's, you know, why I made my point. He kept saying that you know, who would start off that team from Kansas. I mean, that there's not a lot of players in the Big 12 off other teams that start at Kansas. So Kansas dominates the team, or dominates the league every year. So that may be a little bit of an unfair question, but I'm asking you, are you surprised with what he said? Because even though K-State's only lost 2 games, in those 2 games against Michigan and against Gonzaga, they've not looked good.
That's the first analyst I've heard just flat out say the talent's not there. Most of the people we've heard have said, you know, Bruce Weber's trying to force his motion offense onto the players, and they're not suited for
that's
his
why
style of play.
Right?
I mean, I thought Matt Doherty was great. I mean,
it's really interesting.
Yeah, and he sat down and watched him at practice, and he said, there are a bunch of guys that work hard, but you know, talent's not there, and that's good stuff from Matt Doherty. I know a lot of K-State fans out there might not agree. Some of them might, but I enjoyed that interview. He did a great job with him.
Well, we won't know whether he's right or not until the end of the season.
No, I mean, I thought he had interesting stuff to say about Jabari Brown, too, about the 5-star. You know, if he was 5-star and he, you know, why did he leave Oregon?
He said he had a bad season. He only played 2 games. You can't call that a good season or a bad season.
Right.
Didn't play. He left because he didn't get along with someone in the program or didn't like playing for Dana Altman. But
that'll be interesting to see as well. I think it's first time I've heard somebody talk about K-State in that demeanor. And, you know, he was very, very high on Bruce Weber. I don't know if I necessarily totally agree with him being a great coach. I think he's proven that he can coach good with Bill Self's players in Illinois. And other than that, he had some good talent. He got into Illinois and couldn't coach him up, and that's why he eventually got fired. So really telling stuff. We'll see. We'll see how it pans out for K-State. You know, that kind of pulled me at surprise when he perked my ears up when he said that. No. This team doesn't have the talent. When that's all we've heard is.
Well, he was no talent at all.
Right.
I mean,
not little talent.
Nothing.
No. no talent. Didn't seem to be very high on Rodney Magruder.
I mean, what did they lose from last year?
Nothing. I mean, this is the same team. They have Jamar Samuels. That's it.
I mean, they won 10 games in the league and 22 overall. They beat Utah State in the tournament, and then not Utah State. That was the year before. That was surprising to me because everyone I've talked to has said the same thing. They beat Southern Miss in the tournament. Yeah, remember because it was the matchup of Larry Eustace. We wanted to see who could get angrier, Larry Eustace or Frank Martin. But then they lost to Syracuse. There's no shame losing to Syracuse in the second round. Huh. Well, we'll keep a close eye on Kansas State because that's the first person that I've heard say that it was more on the players and Bruce Weber's working with nothing.
With that said, I don't think K-State has much of a chance this weekend. They struggle to score.
Well, nobody that
Florida's damn good.
That's
team.
one thing everyone's agreed on. No one has
right.
felt like. I feel like Kansas State has a better chance than most people do. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they won.
I think I would be. I'd be shocked if they score more than 60 points. I think they don't get past 50, 55 points. In Florida, they can score and they can play D. So,
Florida's pretty damn good. There's no doubt about that. Back after this on WHB.